Welcome to the deep dive. It feels like the ground is constantly shifting under our feet when it comes to how information gets out there. I mean, you've got AI writing things, information overload, our attention spans are, well, notoriously short. And it's pretty clear the old ways brands used to talk to us, they just aren't really cutting it anymore. We're in this age of radical transparency. What used to be hidden is now totally front and center. It's not just some passing fad, right? It feels like the new reality for how reputations are built and managed. So today we're doing a deep dive into something we're calling the quiet power shift, how founders, not brands, are becoming the face of modern PR.
Think about it. For ages, companies hid behind these polished, kind of sterile press releases and, faceless corporate voices.
Yeah.
But our mission here is to really unpack why you, the listener, the consumer, seem to be connecting less with those big abstract brands and more with the actual people behind them, the founders. You want to explore how these founders are turning into major PR assets, really shaping how we see things, grabbing media attention.
And what that shift actually means for you. And just for context, what we're discussing today is largely based on a really insightful piece exploring this exact thing, how founder-led PR is, well, it's basically becoming the main event. Okay, let's jump in then. So for decades, right, the playbook was clear. Very controlled messages, official spokespeople keep individuals at arm's length from the corporate identity. But now that feels almost old-fashioned. We're seeing this real craving for vulnerability, for honesty, even for seeing the imperfections. What's really driving this, do you think?
It's fascinating, isn't it? What's really intriguing is how it seems to be a direct reaction to just the sheer amount of stuff we're all wading through online. Especially now with AI adding to the clutter. People, and that means journalists, customers, even the company's own employees, they seem kind of exhausted by the perfectly polished, corporate jargon. They're looking for something authentic, genuinely authentic. If you connect this to the bigger picture, it's really about a human story being able to cut through all that noise and traditional corporate messaging. It just struggles to do that now. Founders, well, they're perfectly placed to deliver this because it's their story. It's their passion, their journey, the real ups and downs. And that creates a connection. It builds a kind of trust, a relatability that a logo or a faceless company just can't.
Okay, so it's about that human connection cutting through, and this hunger for authenticity. It's not just resulting in, say, more founder interviews. Our source material mentions that top entrepreneurs are actually building these quite powerful personal media ecosystems. What does that actually look like in practice when a founder really steps into that kind of role? And how does this connect to that bigger picture you mentioned about trust shifting in society?
Well, it's a huge transformation. We're not just talking occasional blog posts. We're talking founders actively cultivating a serious presence. Think personal newsletters with real insights, writing these in-depth thought leadership pieces, getting into active real-time discussions on platforms like, say, Twitter or X, and doing loads of podcast interviews just like this one. It's not just broadcasting news. It's about creating a direct, continuous conversation. And this raises a really important question, right? You look around, and trust in big institutions, governments, traditional media, even large corporations have been sliding for years now. So where do people look? Increasingly, they look to individuals. They're searching for voices they feel they can actually believe in. So a founder speaking directly, maybe even off the cuff sometimes, that builds a kind of loyalty, a connection that a brand logo, no matter how well designed, simply can't match anymore. It's their story, their unfiltered perspective that suddenly becomes this incredibly potent tool for telling the brand story.
Right. So if founders are doing this directly, building their own audiences, what does that mean for the world of traditional PR, the agencies, the carefully managed campaigns? It almost sounds like founders are just going direct, bypassing the old ways,
Yeah.
putting out raw, authentic stuff themselves. Can you give us some examples? Like, who are the big names really nailing this, and what's the actual impact they've had?
Yeah, it definitely points towards agility and directness being key now. Think about founders like, well, the obvious one is Elon Musk or someone like Melanie Perkins from Canva. Their individual voices essentially become the brand's most powerful PR engine. Musk, I mean, he's famous for it, right? Driving massive headlines, shifting market perceptions, influencing public debate, often just through his personal Twitter feed. He doesn't wait for a press release. He is the press release sometimes. And then you have Melanie Perkins. She's built this huge amount of public goodwill and brand love for Canva, not just because the product's great, but through her personal story, her vision, democratizing design. Her communication feels consistently authentic. Their interactions, maybe an unscripted moment on a podcast that builds loyalty or a single LinkedIn post that gets investors buzzing, that stuff often lands with way more impact than some meticulously planned, expensive corporate campaign. They're really prime examples because you almost can't separate their personality from the public image of their company anymore.
That sounds incredibly effective. But wow, it also sounds like a massive amount of work, a huge time sink. If a founder is basically operating as their own media company, how on earth are they managing that? Are there tools involved? And what happens when it goes wrong? Because that no PR filter thing, while valuable for authenticity, feels like a real double-edged sword. It could blow up fast, right?
That's a really critical point you've hit on. And what's fascinating here is that while it looks like it's all down to the founder's personal drive or charisma, technology is actually a huge enabler. The source material points this out. Founders aren't necessarily doing every little thing themselves. You've got increasingly clever AI tools popping up now, ones that can help figure out audience sentiment, suggest better ways to phrase things. There's sophisticated scheduling software to juggle all the different platforms, even ghostwriting services. Good ones can really capture a founder's actual voice and help distill complex ideas. That frees them up. Plus, analytics platforms help them track what's working and refine things. So these tools can let them build a really significant media presence without it consuming their entire week, maybe just a few focused hours. But, and this is the crucial but that raises the other important question you asked. With that lack of a traditional filter, the risks shoot way up. Overexposure, definitely a risk. Saying the wrong thing, a hot take that just completely backfires, that can have serious fallout for the brand.
And a personal scandal involving the founder, or even just a clumsy public comment, that can be way more damaging than a standard corporate slip-up. Precisely because, as we've been saying, the person and the brand are now so tightly linked in the public mind, it takes a lot of personal discipline, real awareness of the potential consequences.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So bringing it back to the listener, if you're out there, maybe you're involved with an early stage company, or you're trying to scale a startup, or perhaps you're just interested in where business communication is heading, what are the key takeaways here? What are the direct implications of this power shift for you?
Well, the direct implication seems pretty clear. You really need to start thinking about your founder or yourself, if you are the founder, as a core strategic PR asset. Not just the CEO you wheel out for big announcements. Your media strategy, particularly if you're an early-stage company, should probably be built around their story first and foremost. In this world we're in, saturated with media, cluttered with AI content, authenticity isn't just a bonus anymore. It feels like the key differentiator. The founder's actual face, their voice, their stated values, that often carries more weight now than any slick logo or clever slogan. And smart companies, well, they seem to be recognizing this and really leaning into it, investing more in that founder presence, because fundamentally that seems to be where trust is being built today.
And that pretty much wraps up our deep dive into the quiet power shift, how founders, not brands, are becoming the face of modern PR. It really is a fundamental change, isn't it? Driven by this deep-seated craving for something real, for authenticity, and this move towards trusting individuals more than institutions.
Absolutely. And it leaves you with a final thought, doesn't it? If the founder's identity and the brand's public image are becoming so intertwined, almost inseparable, what does that actually mean for the long haul? For things like company sustainability or succession planning down the road? Are we heading into a time where the human face of the company isn't just its biggest asset, but maybe also its most defining and potentially its biggest vulnerability?